The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Open Occitanie. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get a 50% bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by EdgeBoost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Go to edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get a 7 different today. Link to sportsgames.com or RATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday night, roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Time on January 30th. And also, Scott Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the quarterfinals in Montpellier. So we're going to preview all four matches taking place on Friday. For that, though, do want to recap what happened last week, last episode, both for the picks and for the actual matches. So starting off with the overall bad news, not a great week, or I should say great episode for the lock and dog picks. Starting off with the lock, ended up losing with Puy on the money line at minus 140 as he lost in straight sets to Bellucci. Pretty embarrassing. Puy ended up having, I believe it was 10 or 11 break points and broke 0 times in the entire match. I believe he was up above 40, had 4 break points in one game in the first set. It's in the middle stage of the first set. Didn't get the break and then immediately gave up a boomerang break as he ended up falling behind. So either way, Puy had some chances, couldn't convert, and Bellucci was more opportunistic. And that was really the, I'd say, turning point in the match. For the dog, though, pick up a loss as well, with Gasquet and Mannarino over 2.5 sets at plus 135. That was not close either. It was pretty weird having 2 separate matches that we ended up taking where one guy had 0 breaks of serve. But that's what happened as Gasquet demolished Mannarino, and the match was over pretty quickly. Gasquet was great. It was one of the best serving matches ever had based on, I'd say, first serve points won, and Mannarino was just up against it the entire match. I just felt like Gasquet was in great form, and he was able to beat Mannarino comfortably. So once again, a bad episode for us, though, as we did lose the lock and dog picks. Time to move on, though, into the recap of the round of 16. So overall, I'd say the round of 16 was pretty straightforward. In fact, out of all 8 matches, 7 of them ended in straight sets. So Rublev ended up beating Eubanks in straight sets. So Basilashvili looked very good, won the first set via bagel against Rinderknech. Then he won the second set in a tiebreak as he won in straight sets. Bublik did defend his title for a match as he was able to beat Kempfer in straight sets. You saw Kovacevic beat Bellucci 7-6, 7-5. Fun match there. Only 1 break point combined between them, but either way, Kovacevic did win in straight sets. Griekspoor did beat Gasquet in a marathon. Gasquet actually could have won the match. He had a couple break points there in the 4-4 game. Did not convert, or I should say the, I don't remember if it was the 4-4 game or the 5-5 game. Point is, though, Gasquet had a couple break points, did not convert. Then eventually Gasquet did break to win the match. So nice, I'd say, marathon win by him. De Jong ended up beating Caboli in straight sets. You saw Bu beat Lestien in an absolute just murder in straight sets. And you saw Felix get the job done against Kaza. He was up a set in a break, did blow the break, but did eventually win the second set in a tie break. So once again, really no drama at all besides the Gasquet match, as 7 of the 8 matches ended in straight sets. It's been a pretty interesting event so far. I'd say nothing earth-shattering in terms of upsets, but either way, Caboli did lose, which was one of the bigger upsets. However, we did not end up backing him as an outright. We didn't like his current form. We thought that he was mispriced, and apparently we were right because he was one of the favorites, and he was definitely underpriced based on current form. For the outright updates, that is the bright spot of last episode. We still have all 3 guys left alive, as Rublev at 350, Felix at 440, and Bublik at 12-1 are all alive and well. So hopefully they end up surviving past the quarterfinals onward into the semis. Anyway, before we get into the actual preview of the 4 matches Friday, I want to remind you once again that you can show support for the show by subscribing on YouTube. A reminder, you can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. So once again, if you do want to show some support, you can help us grow on YouTube. I think we're into the 730s now, 740 maybe for subscribers, trying to get to, well, aim for 800 by the end of February. So hopefully you can help us out with that by spreading the podcast, I'd say, just through word of mouth, or even I don't know, tweeting about it, something. Point is that you can show support for the show by subscribing, and also leaving a rating and review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store, SGPN website. We have a lot of great Tennis Game Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. All high quality, all affordable. Recommend getting yourself something with different colors as well. For the shirts, if you do want some options, we have black, we have, I believe, gray. We also have white. So if you do want some opportunities to find yourself some good merch at a pretty cheap price, check out the merch store. not just for this show, but for the other shows with the network. And a reminder, we also do have a great deal going on for the big game coming up, because SGPN is running a free squares pool for the Super Bowl, $1,000 winner take all for the final square. Just go to sportsgamblers.com/squares to sign up today. sportsgamblers.com/squares. So once again, if you do want to get yourself some overall opportunity to make some free money, check out the squares pool at the link once again, and you'll be entered automatically into the actual field. Anyway, time to move back into the actual preview of the matches here for Friday. Starting off with the first match on the card. So for this one, we are going to start off with the early match, which is a match between Boo and Felix. Now for this one, Felix is a massive favorite. So once again, he's expected to pretty much roll in this one. Felix is minus 375, Boo's plus 305. For the actual spread here, you have minus 4 for Felix, you have plus 4 for Boo. For the over-under, you have 22 games flat at even money, so you can probably find 21.5 juice to the over. For the set spread, you have Felix in straight sets minus 140. You have Boo to win a set at plus 110. Now, Felix did look good in the match against Kaza for the most part, as he was up a set in a break, and it felt like he was going to dominate. Now, it eventually got competitive, and Felix was actually down a midi break or two in the breaker, came back though and won. So his first match post Aussie Open, I thought looked pretty good as a whole. As for Boo, he ended up beating Altmaier in straight sets and destroyed Lestien 6-2, 6-1. Now, Lestien is not really known for being a good hardcore player. He's more of a finesse guy, a lot of spin, a lot of overall slice, not much firepower at all, and Boo just blew him off the court. As simple as that. Now, for the actual head-to-head history, doesn't exist, so nothing to go by. Now, Felix, I said before, he is a defending semifinalist. Did lose to Bublik in the semifinals last year in a marathon 3-setter. I thought he looked good over Kaza. Now, the problem is we know that he can be a head case. We know that he can definitely take his, mental breaks over the course of matches, which can allow opponents to crawl the way back into sets that they have no business winning. Boo, though, has been very good. However, before this event, he really was not doing much. Did lose to Habib in Aussie Open qualifying, ended up losing in Auckland to Struff. So this has been kind of out of nowhere, and I feel like beating the likes of Altmaier and Lestien, two guys who are objectively not good on hard court, I think is definitely misleading. And I do think that it makes sense that Felix is that big of a favorite, because people are going to look at the score lines of 6-2, 6-1. I think Boo is alive to win the match. I disagree. I think Felix is the much better player. I think his serve is better than Boo's, and I do think that Boo's return game is weaker than Felix's. He's going to have to rely on Felix hitting a bunch of unforced errors, which definitely can happen. But for the sake of this matchup, I think Felix is better, and I do think that Felix beating Kaza, who I think is a pretty solid young hardcore player. You might remember he beat Rune in the Aussie Open. I believe that was a year or two ago. Point is, I think that Kaza in France is a pretty tough opponent, and Felix was, coasting for the first, 60 minutes of that match, and then it got interesting. But give me Felix in straight sets here. I think Boo is, once again, a decent player, but I do think he's a guy that is just, underwhelming compared to Felix and their overall skill sets. So I am going to go with the matchup here with Felix. Give me him in straight sets at minus 140. You can probably find a better price if you shop around, but that's the price I see in front of me. Give me Felix in straight sets at minus 140 as my first choice for the quarterfinals. Moving on to the next matchup, you have De Jong taking on Griekspoor in a battle of Dutch players. So Griekspoor is minus 220. De Jong is plus 190. For the actual spread here, you have Griekspoor minus 3. You have De Jong plus 3. Juice on the plus 3 at minus 130. So once again, if you want to find 2.5, you can find that if you do shop around. For the actual over-under, you have 22.5 games here. The over is minus 119. The under is minus 101. The over 2.5 sets is plus 140 for the over. And the straight set wager for Griekspoor is plus 125. De Jong to win a set is minus 155. Now, for the actual matchup, I would put it this way. Griekspoor's looked fine in the event. He's been winning. He hasn't looked comfortable, but he's found ways to get by. As Griekspoor was able to beat Dzanchop in the first round, 7-5, 6-3, ended up having a marathon win against Gasquet in the next round. Now, Gasquet, we'll admit, has been very good here in the past. It's probably his best event on the entire calendar, and we saw him look really good against Manarino in the first round. But Griekspoor did have to fight off 3 separate break points in the 4-4 game, and 2 separate break points in the 3-3 game. So the point is, you are looking at Griekspoor, who was very lucky to actually win. He had to fight off 6 break points that eventually did convert his only break point in the entire third set. So he's kind of lucky to be here, and I do think that Griekspoor is the better player compared to the De Jong. But De Jong's been in good form. De Jong so far in the event has not dropped a set yet. He was able to beat Kaboli in straight sets on Thursday, as he got the job done there in a second set tiebreak. He was also able to get the job done in the first round in what was a pretty interesting matchup against Hallis, where he was down 5-0 in the first set tiebreak, came back and won the breaker. Hallis got injured, big reason for that, and then eventually Hallis did retire down 2-0 in the second set. So De Jong and Griekspoor are both pretty lucky to actually be in the quarterfinals. But for the actual matchup, I think Griekspoor is better. However, I think he's still been vulnerable, and I do think you're looking at a spot where Griekspoor is definitely vulnerable, but still better than De Jong. I like the over in this one at 22.5. I don't exactly want to lay minus 220 for current form Griekspoor, but I do think that De Jong is definitely the less talented player who was in really bad form for months on the ATP level before this event. So I am going to go with the over. Both guys have served well. I believe De Jong had 14 aces, I think, against Kaboli in the straight set win on Thursday. So I am going to go with a pretty competitive matchup here. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets as well, but I am going to go with the over. I think it will be a marathon. I think that you're going to see a pretty minimal number of breaks for both guys. So give me, once again, the over in this matchup. Now, before we get into the actual preview of the other two matches for the quarters, I want to remember once again that we are brought to you by EdgeBoost, because EdgeBoost has partnered up with SGPN, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. EdgeBoost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook's DFS site, sweepstakes site, etc., racetrack, and casino. You can also earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using the EdgeBoost card, and you know your money's safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit cards, and it's completely free. Sign up today and use the promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. Reminder, that's edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN, edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by MyBookie. A reminder that MyBookie is the place to bet on every sport, plus props for every game, and live dealer casino. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations, easy to deposit, and lightning fast payouts with crypto. And a reminder, you can also head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN, for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Once again, promo code SGPN, plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Just finished previewing the first two matches for the quarterfinals in Montpellier. Time to move on into the other two matches. Now, you want to quickly touch upon the comment section. See above the clouds, commending me on my dedication. Yeah, once again, tennis has been one of my favorite sports to bet on for a long time, so definitely happy to break it down. No matter how obscure the matches seem, you can make money on it, which is why we do the show for all the quarterfinals in the 250s. Plus a shout out to Tubbs over here, who ended up saying that he's looking forward to the episode. Hopefully, you do enjoy the show. Same thing for real. Same thing for uneducated. Welcome back to the podcast. Anyway, we just finished getting into the preview of the Griekspoor match. Time to move on into the matchup between Rublev and Basilashvili. Nice to see Basilashvili back in, I'd say, relevance, because he's had a really rough couple of years. He was in the top 30 at one point. He's been a mess, and now he's back on track. So Basilashvili has been good so far in the event. He was able to beat, once again, a pretty, I don't want to say difficult opponent, because I'm not the biggest Rinderknech guy, but still a good win nonetheless in straight sets, especially in France, against the Frenchman in Montpellier there in the last round. Did beat Kukushkin in basically 3 sets, because Kukushkin retired down 5-0 in the third set, but either way, went through qualifying and is able to make it into the quarterfinals. Rublev, though, was in really bad form, did have a bye, then beat Eubanks in straight sets. Said it before, Eubanks I don't think is very good, so I thought Rublev would beat him in straight sets, but either way, nice win for him. Did call for the trainer mid-match, though, so I do wonder how healthy he actually is for this matchup, but he had a day off, so we'll see how he looks once again on Friday. Now, for the money line, I'm going to point out that Rublev is a massive favorite. Rublev is in the minus 500 range, and Basilashvili is around plus 350. Now, the head-to-head is currently tied 3-3. However, that is pretty misleading, because you look at the previous meetings, and Basilashvili did win the first 2 meetings back in 2019, so they are a bit skewed. Rublev, though, did lose the last meeting in Halle on grass to Basilashvili in straight sets 2022. Face-off, though, in Halle the year prior, Rublev did beat him in 3. So the point is, the last 2 hardcore meetings in 2019 and 2020, Rublev did beat him in Rotterdam in straight sets and in Cincinnati in 3. So Rublev, I think, should be the favorite here. The question is minus 500 steep, or is that fair? I think it's a little steep. I think that Basilashvili has been very good. Now, I do think Rublev should beat him, let's be clear. However, I think Basilashvili can keep this match somewhat competitive. I don't see it being a lopsided affair here. I think that Basilashvili's shown he's kind of regained his form that he had from years ago, and I do think he's played like a potential. I'll put it this way. He's currently ranked 178. He's played like a top 80 guy over the last couple of weeks. And I do think that for a guy who made it through qualifying in the Aussie Open, did lose to Mensik in 4 in the first round, then he ended up having a decent run in, once again, qualifying here in Montpellier. I think Basilashvili is playing better, but I think the issue he runs into, he's still a baseliner who has double faulting issues, and I do think that Rublev is the better baseliner by a decent margin. So for me, I think I'm going to go with a pretty standard Rublev 6-4, 6-4, maybe a breaker in there, but Rublev should get onto the offensive in a lot of these rallies, and Basilashvili, I think, will have issues holding regularly compared to Rublev. I think Rublev is the better server by a decent amount, and Basilashvili has had double faulting issues over the years. So I think you're looking at a spot where Rublev should win in straight sets, but I think that the money line is pretty high, a bit too high, and I think you're looking at Basilashvili being a little bit disrespected by the price. I don't see any value on Rublev, but I think he should win this match, and what I think should be a competitive 2 sets or even 3. So for the value, I guess the argument would be on Basilashvili, maybe plus the 4.5 games if you can actually find that. But I don't see much value once again. I think that it's a pretty expensive match to back Rublev, and I'm going to pass on that option. So once again, I'll give me Basilashvili for the games, if anything. But I'm not going to bet it. I don't think there's any value on that match in particular. Moving on to the final match of the quarterfinals. You have what could be the most competitive matchup of the day. Maybe. Either this one or maybe Rublev, Basilashvili. I don't think so, but maybe. I think Greek Sportajong should be fun. But Bublik and Kovacevic. Now, Bublik's defending champion. Now, he did beat Kempfer in straight sets in the first round. First match, he had a bye in the first round. He looked fine. Nothing else to really add. I thought he could have looked better, could have looked worse, but Kempfer, not a great server, and Bublik was able to capitalize on that. As for Kovacevic, he's been great. Was able to win against Bellucci in straight sets in the round of 16, beat Goffin in 3 sets in the first round, went to qualifying, beating Krenya Busta, which is a good win there too. Now, I do want to point out Kovacevic, though, has been a monster, even in challengers recently, because if you actually want to factor in qualifying this event and including the actual challenger matches, he has officially won, looking it up, 8-1, 9-1, 10-1. He's 10-1 in his last 11. So Kovacevic has kind of found himself in a very solid groove, which is nice to see, because Kovacevic has a lot of firepower, he has a lot of talent, but it seems like he's constantly, I'd say, battling some inconsistency issues, and it appears that he's suddenly on a positive swing. So that might, once again, result in a good run here in Montpellier that could go beyond the quarterfinals. Now, Bublik has been in really bad form. That was the first match he won all year, as he was able to beat Kempfer, but I think you're looking at Kovacevic, who I think has some value. Now, for the actual pricing, Bublik's minus 136, Kovacevic is plus 116. For the game spread, you have minus 2 for Bublik at around plus 115. You have minus 2 for Bublik, plus 115. You have minus 145 for the plus 2 for Kovacevic. For the set spread here, you have straight sets for Bublik at plus 190. You have Kovacevic to win a set at minus 240. For the over 2.5 sets, you can find that at plus 125. For the games, you have over 23.5 at plus 103. The under is minus 123. Now, no head-to-head history, but I think Bublik is on upset alert here for this matchup. Kovacevic has been really good, and I think winning 10 of 11 on any level is a testament to his current form. And you're looking at Kovacevic, who did not face a single break point in the match against Bellucci in the round of 16. So he's serving well. I think the one-handed overall backhand with the firepower he possesses can push Bublik around the court. Bublik, I think, can double fault away, once again, some breakpoint chances. We saw that happen in the Kempfer match. He did double fault to give away a break in the first set. Then he immediately broke back, but still. Point is, I think Bublik is a player that we know can be very erratic at times. Even in the title run in Montpellier last year, he did drop a set in every round. Beating Kempfer is not going to, I'd say, automatically put my questions to bed. I think Kovacevic is in better form right now, and I think that Kovacevic is alive to win this one. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I think that Bublik is an upset alert. Of course, I hope I'm wrong, because we have Bublik to win the event. But I think you're looking at Kovacevic, who's proven that right now, all of the upside that was talked about him for years is starting to show some fruits of labor. And it does seem like Kovacevic is, in my opinion, in better form. Give me the underdog here at plus 116. If you want to go for the over in sets, I don't mind that either. But I see a close matchup that you might see a breaker or two. But I do think Kovacevic is serving well enough to, once again, put the pressure on Bublik, force some maybe double faults or some second serve looks. And I think he can find a break in maybe a set or two. So I am going to go with the dog here for the value at plus 116 as the last pick for the quarterfinal matches. So once again, that's going to wrap it up for the actual 4-match previews for Friday. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Forward to that, though, want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Open Occitanie Fantasy because they have a lot of great items on the pick menu. They have a lot of ways to make money easily with profit boosting giving pick'ems. They have NFL, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. You could also use boosts and specials on all your flex entries. For my entry, I know we did end up winning with the Josh Allen rush attempts higher. And we also had Matt Collins higher on his longest reception for that game. So we catch both of those. For this one, I think I'm just going to go with something basic. Give me Jalen Hurts higher half a touchdown in the Super Bowl. I think you're looking at a spot where Hurts should be able to find himself in a tush-push situation, and I do think that he'll find a way into the end zone. Had 3 touchdowns in the NFC title game. I think it's a good spot. Give me Jalen Hurts higher half a touchdown in that game coming up in about a week and a half. A reminder, though, when you do sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN to claim a special first-time deposit offer up to 1K in bonus cash. So once again, a first-time deposit offer up to 1K and a special pick in bonus cash. A reminder, though, on Fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. If you want to try experimenting with betting models, Rhythm can help you do that in seconds. You could copy one from the leaderboard. You could, once again, let Rhythm build one for you, or you could also build one yourself. And Rhythm does have a lot of great tools to help you experiment with models if you want to get some picks on spreads, totals, props, etc. A reminder, they also have a lot of great items for the NFL. They have NFL picks, NFL props, college basketball, and the NBA. Rhythm has it all. And a reminder, you can also try it out for free for a week if you use the link, sportscamp.com Rhythm, or sportscamp.com, RETHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Just finished previewing the 4 quarterfinal matches here in Montpellier for Friday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I am going to go back to the matchup between De Jong and Griekspoor. For this one, I'm going to go with Griekspoor team total over 12.5 games here at minus 140. Griekspoor's gone over this team total in each of the first 2 matches in the event. He had a 3-set marathon against Gasquet, and he was able to go over this while winning in straight sets against Dzanschulp. However, you're looking at De Jong. He's had a bunch of 7-5 and 7-6 sets recently. There have been a 7-5 or 7-6 set in 9 of De Jong's last 10 matches. So you tend to see at least one set go distance. Griekspoor's a massive favorite. He's around minus 220. He doesn't really need to win the match in order to cash this prop. If you end up getting, for example, a set where he wins 6-4, and he loses the next 2 sets 4-4 or 4-3, you still win. That totals 13-14. So once again, you can get there if he loses a marathon 3-setter, or if he wins like he did in the Dzanschulp match. He has a 7-5 or 7-6. He wins in straight sets, and you still win anyway. De Jong was in really bad form on the ATP level for a long time. He was able to once again get the job done against Kaboli, and he was able to win in the first-round match against Hallis, pretty luckily with the injury. But there was a breaker in each of those 2 matches. De Jong's been serving well. He had, to go through the numbers here, 14 aces in the match against Kaboli. So he has served very well. He won 90+% of his first serve points. So I think you can see at least one marathon set here. Griekspoor, I think, should get on the scoreboard. I don't see De Jong winning in straight sets. If he wins, maybe a 3-set marathon, but Griekspoor team total over is a way to kind of deal with the potential marathon while also leaving yourself some room for success if Griekspoor does win in a competitive straight sets. I like that kind of prospect there of covering your bases with 2 possible outcomes. So give me Griekspoor team total over 12.5 games at minus 140 is my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go back to the last match between Kovacevic and Bublik. However, I am going to go with the first set money line. We did fade Bublik in the first set many times, either this year or last year. Going to go back to it. Give me Kovacevic first set money line at plus 105. Kovacevic in the recent winning streak has been amazing early in matches. He has won the first set in 12 of his last 13 matches. So I do think Kovacevic can hit the ground running here. I think he can definitely showcase his firepower, catch Bublik off guard a bit. Bublik, though, has lost the first set in 3 of his last 4 matches. So even though Bublik did beat Kempfer in straight sets in the first match he had here in Montpellier. Not the greatest first set guy over the course of the last couple years, and I think that Kovacevic, once again winning the first set in 12 of 13, has value in this market at plus 105. Plus, Kovacevic, mentioned it before, did not face a breakpoint in the entire match against Bellucci. So once again, you're going to give me a guy who did not face a breakpoint in the last match. He served well. He's won 10 of 11, and he's won the first set in 12 of 13. Plus 105 is a great price. I get Bublik, once again, can be dangerous because Bublik's a guy that can find a certain groove, and his upside and talent's a lot higher, in my opinion, than Kovacevic. But the inconsistency is still an issue for Bublik, and I am not going to overreact to one match that he looked sharp in against a pretty weak opponent on hard court. Give me Kovacevic to look sharp early. Maybe Bublik goes back to what he did last year, lose the first set, win in 3. Wouldn't shock me. But I am going to go with Kovacevic once again, based on current form, to win the first set as my dog. So once again, the plays here for the quarterfinals. The lock's going to be on Greek Sport, team total over 12.5 games, minus 140. For the dog, I am going to go with Kovacevic first set money line against Bublik at plus 105. That's going to wrap it up. I'll run back once again for the semis in Montpellier. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.